Howdy, howdy, ho. Welcome back to the show. Excuse the fountain noise. I'm outside doing homework and doing what I gotta do, but I'm trying to get this thing up. So, Juliet Benedetto is one of the strongest women I know. Born and raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia, instead of snow-capped mountains or perfect surf, Juliet spent her childhood trying to accomplish her dreams of becoming the next Taylor Swift and doing gymnastics and running cross-country, among other things. After going to a film camp in New York City for 3 weeks during high school, she discovered her love for screenwriting, which is like writing movies, and came to Chapman University to pursue her passion. We met a year in and started dating, and after finding out her love for running and challenges, I mentioned the idea that we should maybe run an ultramarathon together, and she agreed. 50 miles later, she sat down with me and we talked about it and everything else. She's a beautiful, intelligent savage, and I hope you learned something from her. Please welcome Juliet Benedetto.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, skiers and riders.
I'm pretty good right now.
Welcome to Worlds.
Oh, that we were watching the same video. So basically, for the like 3 people in this world that don't know, but Max and I ran 50 miles, and I was telling my class about it because we had to do personal pitches.
Wow, so you're just bragging.
Well, I mean, I haven't done any internships, so I have nothing else to brag about. And I was saying, like, yeah, I ran an ultramarathon.
Last weekend.
Yeah, last weekend. And this guy in my class sent me a link to this REI video that's entitled, which is a really good REI video, called How to Run 100 Miles. And he was like, oh, you should watch this. And I was like, I've seen every single video about running,
Including that one.
multiple times. But I started watching it anyways because it's a good video. And I was watching it during class, which I probably shouldn't have been. But
Thanks, education.
yeah, thanks, online education. And then I walk in. Max like didn't know because I was in my class, so he wasn't watching my screen or wasn't in my class or anything. When my class was over, I walk into my room and he's watching the same video, and that's when I said we need to be apart.
Spend some
Some quality time
away.
apart.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
So
And now here we are.
here we are. How you feeling?
I feel good.
Really?
My left knee kind of hurts a little bit. It's kind of scaring me.
Are
but
you
not
hurt
too
or
bad.
injured?
I don't know. Ask me in a week when I'm in a cast. I'm going to say I'm just hurt. I think my left knee's a little sore.
Which part is it?
It's like in the middle of my left knee, and then it's in the back of my calves a little bit, but it's not too bad.
And where did that come from, you think?
I mean, it was like,
Because mine was just use.
I think mine was used to. I also, the week before we ran, when they told us, rest and stretch, I was like,
They as in articles.
yeah, the internet articles or the training program we were following. And I did not rest nor stretch, so I think my body's like, you fucking asshole.
Okay, getting into the language
Sorry.
real quick.
I heard that this was a non-kid friendly show.
Yeah, it is. I don't run a
Even
clean
though
show.
you don't run a clean show.
I don't run a clean show.
Noted.
Bruh.
Bruh.
Well, yeah, so Juliet's my girlfriend.
Whoa. Girlfriend, that's a strong term.
Yeah, so that's why she's on today. I mean, unless she has some other reason for that she can provide value.
No,
Do you have anything to tell the listeners?
nothing.
That's it today, folks.
Yeah, if you need someone to cook and clean for you and
Call me.
fold
'cause-
your laundry, call me.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm psyched. What?
But
Okay. I'm psyched to have you on today, bruh.
thanks, bruh.
Finally. Finally. After all the time I spent trying to have you not come on this.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was just begging.
You just invited yourself on.
I want to be on Worlds.
Wait, do you know the intro song? Do you have it memorized yet?
Yeah.
What is it?
Ba-da-da-da, dun-dun-dun, ba-da-da-da. And it's like, good morning, skiers and riders. And then some other girl voice in there. I don't even know. I know it's a lot of Snapchat.
A lot of Snapchat stuff.
It's a lot of Snapchat stuff.
But Oh my God. Anyway, so you ran an ultramarathon last week.
I did.
And before we talk about that, I'd love to have a little bit of background. Because you have a
backgrounds.
different background than most people.
Well, my
who
life
run
started
ultras.
once I started dating you.
I mean, that's all. That's all that I
That's
I
all
know.
you care about.
That's all I care about. So,
That's all
yeah.
the 12
So,
and
yeah,
13-year-old IFHT
Hey,
mega fans
yeah,
care
I'm still
about.
living off their clout. That's
Yeah,
that's the whole
as
point
you
of
should.
this. But as I should. Anyway, so where are you from?
I'm from Virginia Beach,
Really?
Virginia.
Really?
I know.
Wow,
Isn't
that's
that
crazy. So you grew up in the mountains, skiing and biking and running.
Yeah, my day to day, I grew up on a skier schedule. I would like go to school from like 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then I would go up into the mountains and I would ski all day with everyone in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Oh, so you grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and what was
Virginia
that like?
Beach,
Virginia, Virginia. It's midday, and I've already had my new nightcap, as it were. So getting a little sloshy, but can't help it. So you're from
Yeah.
Virginia Beach, Virginia. Tell
I'm
us
from
about
Virginia
Virginia Beach, Virginia, because I don't think a lot of people from the East Coast listen to this podcast besides Katie. So shout out Katie.
Shout out Katie. Virginia Beach, Virginia was a great place to grow up.
It was.
Yeah, I really liked it because we were 15 minutes from the beach. I grew up going to the beach like every single weekend. You get all 4 seasons. It's kind of weird because the north thinks that you're southern and the south thinks that you're northern. So
You
I'm
just didn't fit
mid-Atlantic
in.
though. Yeah, I didn't fit in.
You're the Mid-Atlantic.
The mid-Atlantic.
Did you have a Mid-Atlantic? Isn't that an accent? Or like a
No.
way that people talk?
Well, I don't know because I know some people from Virginia, they have southern accents. And so my dad's from New York and my
City.
mom is from Jacksonville, Florida. So like all my dad's family is northern and all my mom's family is southern. And whenever we go up to visit my dad's family, they're always like, why don't you have, like, it's shocking your kids don't have southern accents. And then when we go down and visit my mom's family, it's like, hey y'all want some chitlins? Like it's kind of crazy.
But when I met you, you said y'all.
Yeah, I do still say y'all.
Not as much. Depending.
Not
like,
as much.
If you go to Virginia Beach when I went to Virginia Beach with you,
Yeah.
you were saying it. You were
Yeah,
using lingo.
'cause all
what
my
was
friends
the other
say
thing
y'all.
that your brother says a lot?
John.
Yeah.
John. I feel like there's a lot more lingo on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast in my personal, because like what did you have in Colorado? Like what was your
Oh.
oh
dude.
I always think of
fucking
Sven.
sick.
I always think of Sven when you do that oh laugh.
Yeah, dude.
That was it?
Fuck no, dude. Just fucking give her
Yeah, give her
Or
Brad.
like, oh, send it, my dude.
Yeah, but that's because you grew up where you would like ski down mountains.
I did. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I did.
So, but our lingo is more like just.
Give
It's,
me an example sentence. The most lingo-y sentence you can get.
oh my god.
That's still like a good, clear sentence.
Well, John is just like certain objects. So you can be like, what's that jaunt over there?
Are you smoking a jaunt?
No. Well, like, what's that jaunt over there? I can't really use it now. I remember there was one summer where stop looking at me like that. There was one summer where like we used it so intense. Like I used it in every single sentence. My parents couldn't even understand what I was saying. And one time, my friends and we were camping out on the bayou.
Oh God.
I know.
That can
And
you say that sentence again?
my friends and I were camping out on the bayou.
Oh God.
And we like said
Wait, who are you
jaunt.
dating?
We said jaunt so much that we were camping with other guys.
On the
And I felt like
bayou.
the guys in our group were like, shut the fuck up. Like, what does this even mean? But jaunt is like, yeah, what's that jaunt over there? Or what time do you guys want to go and like do
Jaunt
jaunt?
around.
No, do jaunt. Like jaunt is
Dude, jaunt? That sounds like a drug, dude. That sounds like a street name for a
or like
drug.
do things.
Let's
Like,
do jaunt.
Jaunt can be used in any way. So I remember Katie, because we were talking about Katie. Katie one time literally said, "What jaunt is it?" And then one of my friends replied, "Oh, it's 10:30 a.m." As in, like, it was just a replacement for time.
Jaunt is a longer word than time.
Yeah, but it's just fun. And Marco says it a lot too. I mean, I haven't been back to Virginia for like an extended period of time in a long time, so I feel
Like 3 months.
Well,
2 months.
Yeah, 2 months, but I was there for like a week and a half.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Jaunt.
I'm trying to think of some other lingo.
It's so funny though, because I remember my cousin Devin. I'd come to California, and he would say like bomb, like BOMB.
Like, that's bomb.
Dude, that was fucking bomb.
That was fucking bomber.
Yeah, not bomber.
Just bomb.
And then frickin' and sick. Sick was like an OG
Sick,
one.
yeah.
Or dope.
I think it's
dope
so-
is like worked its
Yeah.
way into my parents' language. Like they say, my dad says dope all the
That's
time.
awesome.
He'll be like, "Yo, that was dope."
That was dope. Oh my god. No, but it's interesting because in the East Coast, like, you can definitely tell where someone is from based on their lingo. And the accent differentiation is so severe on the East Coast.
Whereas like Northern California, and actually you could debate that Northern Californians have like upspeak. Do you know what upspeak is?
Yeah, but that's all
Hello?
those Silicon Valley people that are like,
Silicon
"I'm better
Valley?
than you.
I am rich.
I am rich."
It's funny because we have a lot of friends. Well, you have some friends from the Bay Area.
Yeah,
Shout
Hannah's
out
from the
Scott
Bay.
Fitzpatrick. They're not very. They
Hannah's
don't
from
talk
the
like
Bay.
that.
No.
Scott definitely does not talk like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm better than you.
Want to come to my $10 million house?
Noted. But what were so you said how, so New York obviously has its accent, but like what was other lingo from other places where
I
you'd
mean,
be like,
people-
oh, they're from DC or something?
Like, I don't know. My cousins have because my entire dad's family is all on the East Coast. Like, we don't have anyone even in like the middle of America.
Shout
It
out
doesn't.
Midwest.
It doesn't go past
My
the East
favorite
Coast
place.
for my dad's family.
I'm from
and even for my mom's family too. Well, no, my mom's family's in Texas, but like it's very, the East Coast is very divided. Like not
like north and south.
well, no, just like from no, just from like the places you're from.
The Union.
It makes
and
you
the
yeah,
Confederacy.
it makes you a very like independent person based on or like versus being out on the West Coast and everyone's like chill and relaxed and
Are you saying that we're more dependent out here?
not more dependent, but you guys are like,
Yeah, choose your words wisely, miss.
no, you guys are more dependent, but I think you grew up with a sense of like big, strong community. Whereas on the East Coast, like you have Virginia and Maryland, like in the span of California, you have Virginia, Maryland, like North Carolina below Virginia, South Carolina. Like you have all of these states
That are all different.
that are all so different.
Whereas
so-
California is like, there's
Yeah.
some different people.
There's
but
some different people. I mean, I know like there's very big like Bay Area beef, like between, oh, are you really from the Bay? Like my
I
old
think
roommate
it's within
and
the towns though. Like San Clemente is like, are you across the 5 or not? Like, you know, the 5, Interstate 5.
yeah,
that
but I
goes
think
south?
all in all, you can say like you're a Californian. And
Yeah,
a
that's
large
true.
group of people can identify.
And then like
with being a
California, depending on the
Californian.
California kids, but they're not like Colorado kids. They're like kind of similar to California kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like, well, Utah's its own thing. But
Yeah.
honestly, like all the kids I know in Montana are all similar to Colorado kids, or they are Colorado kids. So I guess
Yeah.
West Coast is all kind of like a similar vibe.
Yeah, I feel
Where
like
East Coast
yeah.
is just like, holy crap.
Well, because you don't have like a very. I think the East Coast is so established, and you have a lot of people that are generationally from Virginia
money.
or generationally from Pennsaldania. I mean,
And they're
it's
proud
just
of
like,
it.
yeah, and
They
they're
have a
proud of it,
family
and they want to
seal.
stay there. Yeah. Versus here on the West Coast, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I'm from California, but I live in Colorado, or I'm from Colorado and I live in Montana. Like, it's very, I don't know. It's just a very different vibe. I feel like, especially coming out from Virginia, it was very clear to me how insane East Coasters are, how wild they are.
But also, like, they get shit done.
They do.
West Coast people are not as
100%.
big on getting
Well,
shit
because
done.
you guys are like, 9
Smoke
a.m.
some weed.
Perfect. Let me go surf now. Versus like, I mean, I don't know. You think of someone that lives in
New York City.
New York City that's like up at the crack of dawn and has already had 3 cups of coffee and has been in the office for like
Screaming
3
at
hours.
people and yelling.
Yeah. It's
But
very
getting shit
intense,
done.
but getting shit done.
It's all different.
It's very different. It's
That's
very big.
it's cool though, because a lot of
Yeah.
countries, honestly, it seems like it's all the same.
Yeah.
Like even like Switzerland, right? It's like it's a really small country, so I guess that's like part of it. But if you just think about like geographically how different America is, like you have such a variety, including Hawaii and Alaska, like the variety of people and places. And like you have these sprawling cities, and then there's
Yeah.
like North Dakota,
Yeah.
or Montana, or New Mexico, and even like Florida.
Yeah.
Even like think about Florida being on the East Coast is so much different than like New York City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you get like such a
That's why I love America.
wide
bro.
variety.
America.
America.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Best country on earth. I love Canada too.
No, Canada's awesome.
Canada's awesome. Dude, talk about different. East Coast, West Coast Canada. Holy
Yeah.
shit. West Coast Canada is like northern Colorado and California mixed.
And then East Coast Canada is
It's
like bonjour.
So
No,
those are very
yeah.
different for sure.
But I think it was good. I think it was good at least for me because I've talked to one of my favorite professors at Chapman, Jill Condon, who was my first screenwriting teacher. She was awesome, and she's from Connecticut, and then she now lives in LA. And she was like, we East Coasters have an upper hand because we wake up before 9 a.m. And I think it's interesting. I mean, I love being from the East Coast, but I'm glad I also am getting different kinds of perspectives. I think that's really important for East Coasters to like make sure that you get out of that.
Well, I think that's important for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's important
People
for
on the
everyone.
West Coast
Yeah.
do that too, especially what I've seen people from California. They just
Yeah.
stay in California,
Yeah.
which is fine. But it's
It's
so
great, but
good.
it's so good to like be able. I think that's one of the main reasons why I came out to Chapman, because I wanted to see like, I push myself a lot, and so I was like, okay, like first when I was like applying to colleges, I didn't even apply to like anywhere near my house. Nowhere in Virginia, nowhere in North
You
Carolina.
applied to 2 colleges.
Yeah, I applied to 2.
Let's just get that.
But
let's get that
they
out
were
there.
2 that were like big universities that felt far away from like where I was from, because I wanted to gain another perspective and like see, because I'd heard from so many of my friends who had gone to schools outside of Virginia that were like, that's the best thing I ever did. Or they were like, that was an experience that even though I came back to Virginia, at least I still have it.
What do you feel like? So when you came out to California for the first time, what was like the first week like? Because I mean,
Oh my God, scary as shit.
like for me, yeah, it was different. But I'd come to California a lot when I was a kid. Like, how many times had you been here before?
Probably
you moved
like
here?
2 or 3.
Okay, 2 or 3, and you're probably in LA.
I was in LA, and then
LA.
my family and I did this road trip from Anaheim, actually, because we went to Disneyland, and then we went all
Shout
the
out
way
Anna
up.
Crime.
Shout out Anna Crime. From Anaheim, because we went to Disneyland, and then we went all the way up to San Francisco. We drove. So we drove through Big Sur and went to Monterey. So I did that, and then I've been to LA like 2 times, and then probably the 4th or 5th time I came to California was when I went to visit Chapman, and I only visited Chapman after I'd gotten in. So I didn't even visit it as like
Wait,
a
after you
perspective.
committed,
Yeah, after I'd committed.
and you hadn't been there.
I hadn't been there. But I saw a video on YouTube. Have you seen the video on YouTube
Probably.
that Chapman put out for Dodge?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
I
really
did.
great, a very well done video.
Yeah, it
And I remember
very much
watching
reflects
that.
the
Yeah.
education.
Right. But it was a very well done video, and I remember in the college application process, they asked a lot of really interesting questions, like if you had to choose a pump up song, like what pump up song would you choose?
Yeah, I
and I was
remember
like,
that
this
too.
seems like such a cool place. So
It wasn't just like GPA, SAT.
yeah, it
Good
was
luck.
very much like, okay,
They wanted to
for
know
as a
you.
well-rounded
And
person.
I just shit on Chapman for a sec, but they're cool.
No, I think
There's positives and negatives.
yeah, I think when you look at Dodge, you
Dodge
can
is
look
the
at-
film school here.
Dodge
at
is a
Chapman.
film school. And you look at Dodge, and I think about it as like, because at my high school was very similar, where it was like a very not intense environment, but I looked at it as like the professors and what they did for me. Like in high school, I had the most amazing teachers where like every third teacher I had to call doctor something because they had doctorates.
Yeah.
And like the professors at Chapman, sure, sometimes you get ones that are like, I don't know what I'm learning here right now.
Yeah.
But then like I think about, like you think about Joe Rosenberg and how incredible he is. And then
Derek Hellwig's dope.
Derek Hellwig is incredible. Like
Sally Rubin's dope.
yeah, he was one. I mean, you just get these like gems of people that you're like, why are you teaching? Like you're incredible. Like even Jill, I remember Jill, she taught my freshman year screenwriting intensive program where we would write like 5-page scripts. And she wrote for Friends. I was like, why are you here teaching us?
Well, it's you know
But it was actually a fluke. Like she wasn't supposed to teach us.
Really?
She was supposed to teach
the masters
graduate kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had another teacher, but then she ended up coming on. And I think she's one of the main reasons why I stayed at Chapman.
True. So wait, give me your thoughts on this.
Okay, thoughts.
So, film school, right? You have
Right.
your professors.
Right.
And you have your professors that teach because they really love teaching, even if they were really successful in their field.
Yeah.
Jill, Joe Rosenberg,
Derek.
and then you have your professors where it's like they might not, it feels like they don't like teaching as much as they feel like they could get a teaching job and make money on the side.
Money on the side.
And it's just weird to me. And that's not just in film, that's just college in general. But it's like, how much do you really want to be here, dude or woman? Like,
Well,
it's just, and it kind of is weird because then I'm like, well, if you are either A, not very successful in your field and you're here teaching me about what I should be doing, even if you didn't have success, which is like, that's an unfair way to judge.
I think it's because we were talking about this the other day too, not to like hijack your question, but like how in such a creative field, how can you dictate what is good and what is bad if it's just opinion based? Like even in screenwriting classes where you have screenwriting teachers.
Screenwriting's writing movies.
Yeah, screenwriting is writing movies if you didn't know. And that's my major. And you have teachers that are like, I don't like this story. And you're like, well, why don't you like it? And that's their opinion. And I remember in one of my screenwriting classes, one of my teachers, who was a very tough teacher, but taught me a lot. And he was talking, this girl pitched a really great idea and he was like, I don't like it. Write a new one. Write me a new pitch. And I was like, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean that she shouldn't write it. But I think at the same time, it teaches you like there are going to be people who are like, I don't like that idea when you're going into pitches. And then you have to come up with new stuff. And you just have to be able to show that you have resilience enough to come up with new things. But I like sometimes it really bothers me a lot when you have teachers who are like, well, in my opinion, and then make you change the idea. Like I think especially with screenwriting, because it's all coming from your brain and then you're presenting it and then someone is supposed to critique your thoughts, like what you think. It's a very like intense process. And I think it's interesting because I've seen a lot of screenwriting teachers that I feel like have done well by me that have been like, I suggest you go in this route or this route or this route. But shutting down completely, I think is something that not a lot of teachers do, but when you do it, I think that that's a bad film teacher.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that what percentage of the professors you've had are good and you've learned something from versus not so?
I think I've learned, this is cheesy, but I've learned from all of them just about like, I mean, I look at my screenwriting teachers that have been not the best, like have been pretty.
What makes them not the best?
Well,
just
there
like
was
kind of what
there
you
was
just
one
described,
screenwriting
or?
teacher where we just did movements in class. Like I remember doing mirroring techniques, and I learned like not a lot. And that's when I was like, why am I in film school? But then you know, I have a professor like Jill Condon who, like, even though our class was all about like the writing basics of screenwriting, I literally text her now and I'm like, I mean, she's the head of the Dodge college internship thing with Joe Rosenberg. And I text her now and I'm like, hey, like, if there are any internship opportunities, let me know. Or I sometimes go into her Monday night classes and we talk and chat. And, you know, freshman year, I literally told her about you and all that kind of stuff.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I did.
What did you say?
I was like, oh my God. Because, you know, her, me, and Hannah, my old roommate, and like the greatest person in the world. Shout out Hannah. Hannah. And Jen, Hannah's roommate. And another one of my screenwriting friends, we would just go and sit and talk and we would like gossip because Jill was like our mom. And I remember just being like, there's this cute guy who's a skateboarder, but he's probably not into me. And she was like, oh, where's he from? And I was like, Colorado. And he's like, oh, he probably just skis all day.
Funny.
Yeah. But
so how are you content with your education?
I think,
And you're a junior.
well, because it's such a big debate of like to go to film school or not to go to film school, to waste your money.
Don't go online. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
don't. I think
Online
it's
blows.
well. I think with screenwriting, it's a lot easier than, you know, if you're trying to do a cinematography class.
I'm in a cinematography class right now.
But with screenwriting, I think it's a lot easier because all you're doing is pitching and all you're doing is writing, and most screenwriters hate confrontation anyways. So I'm sure every screenwriter is just happy.
Including you?
No.
Okay.
Because I don't consider myself to be a screenwriter. I don't think I have the lack of social interaction for that. But it's true. You have to.
If you're not a screenwriter, what
Oh,
are you?
I need to be in production, like on a set. I think I realized that because my freshman year, I went on a set and I PA'd for an
Personal assistant.
I was a production assistant
Production assistant.
for an AP in advanced production.
An AP, yeah, there you go.
Which you shoot your junior year. And it was on this set with Maddie Davies. I have the thank you note that they gave me somewhere in my room. But it was like the best experience because I mean, it was so much fun. We would wake up at like 7 a.m. We would be done at 7 p.m. It was the first time I was ever on set, so I was such a tryhard. And they gave me so much like affirmation because I stayed an extra hour and I helped clean up and I did like art, but I also ran and got snack for Crafty. And I also brought in chairs. And I mean, it was so much fun because I was constantly on my feet and given like a new task to do. And we were someplace different every single day. I think that that's why I would love to be able to write features, but I would need to do it with other people because I really like collaborating and I love like not just sitting in my room and writing by myself. And I really need to be around other people to get my ideas. And I need to be on sets. Because I like immersing myself in the stories.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I also want to create my own opportunities, which is why I kind of got into screenwriting. I was even talking about this in my class in my personal statement. Where, you know, the reason why I got into film was because I wanted to be an actress. Shocker. And I was in one salsa commercial.
Really?
I was in a salsa commercial. Have I shown you it? I think
have. I'm just creating conversation.
I don't show many people it. It's very embarrassing.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
You have cute hair.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
But my mom told me, well, if you're going to be an actress, you need to go into the production side of things too. You need to learn how to be behind the camera because actors and actresses, they just sit around and they wait and they wait and they go and audition and audition and audition. And if you learn how to like write a script, if you know how to direct a script and, you know, you're a very multifaceted person, then you have greater opportunities. And so that's why I got into film because I wanted to be an actress first. And my mom was like, you need to learn like how to be more than just an actress. And then I was like, I don't really want to be an actress. And then got into screenwriting because I felt like, well, I need to learn how to tell stories effectively and have a lot of character-driven stories, because I feel like that's very much so lacking these days in films.
What were some of the like most inspirational film? Like you talk about character-driven stories. So what were a couple that were like, oh, this is something I would want to make?
Well, when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I really didn't want to go into film. I wanted to be a singer. But as a kid, I remember, oh my gosh, what was it? I'll just talk about the ones now because I can't think of my childhood at the moment. But the ones now, anything A24. I love Moonlight. I've seen Moonlight probably about 24 times.
A24 times.
A24 24 times. And, you know, stop looking at me like that. And there's this great French movie called Parole Le Faux.
I hated it.
It's a great movie. I love the lines from it. They're so incredible.
Do you have any in your head?
Oh my God. Well, it's all in French, but there's one where it's like you speak at me with words and I look at you with emotion.
Damn.
Which is such a great line. And I don't know. I just like, I love the visuals from it. I think that they're beautiful. God, what other films have like really, really shaped me? Because Moonlight was a big one. Lady Bird was a big one, but I loved Moonlight because I loved the way that they broke up that character's life into
the 3 parts.
Yeah, into the 3 parts, because I think it's really important to look at a character as more than just the moment that they're in.
So are you more, it sounds like, well, you love character-driven films and you're into characters. Why is that? Because a lot of people write movies for, like for me, I have ideas of beginnings and endings of set pieces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, this would be a cool scene.
Yeah.
But you're like, these would be cool characters, which I feel like is opposite. Like your way of thinking is opposite than a lot of people's. A lot of people come up with the like scene before the characters, but I think you are good at establishing.
And I think that that's why a lot of movies are the same, where it's like you have these sci-fi movies. I mean, you even look at like a lot of
Do not say Star Wars.
I'm not going to say Star Wars, but
say what you want. I'm just fucking around.
I mean, when you look at like E.T. or, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind or anything that's...
What?
What's that director's name? Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Really?
Oh my God.
Wow.
What's his name?
James Cameron.
Shut up. No, it's not. Fuck you. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
Aren't you a film kid?
I am a film kid. I just ran 50 miles and my brain doesn't work.
Excuses.
Oh my God, what's his name?
I don't know. So. Anyway, continue. Julia, we're not going to wait here until you...
Do we both not know?
No, I don't know. Wait, E.T. director.
E.T. direct. He literally...
Oh, Steven Spielberg. Jesus. Okay, there you go.
Oh my God, that's so... Cut that out. Cut that out.
We're not cutting anything.
But,
Have you... Wait, you haven't even seen... Have you seen The Godfather all the way through?
I've never seen
Have you
The
seen
Godfather.
Chinatown?
I have seen Chinatown.
Okay. I think you can't be a film kid unless you see The Godfather all the way through.
I don't want to see The Godfather.
I don't know any film. I don't know. I honestly... I think I know 1 or 2 people.
Sasha hasn't... Once Sasha sees The Godfather, Sasha's my roommate. She was also on the podcast.
Yeah.
Once Sasha sees The Godfather, I will watch The Godfather.
True. It's like 3 hours.
Yeah,
I watched
3
one
hours.
scene from The Godfather of like them baptizing the baby, and it was really good.
Yeah, I've watched like a couple of scenes from it, but I don't
So
feel the need to.
long.
But anyways, back to our point. Steven Spielberg, as we figured out.
I know that guy.
But
heard of
I
it?
watched a doc on him when I was down visiting my mom's family in Florida. And he talks a lot about how his childhood of being a kid of divorced parents and not really having a lot of friends when he was a kid has really inspired a lot of his... Like, you look at all of his stories, and a lot of them are about, like, families breaking up, or a lot of them involve children. Like, most of his stories involve children that he's created himself. And you look at how, like, real and raw those characters are, and that's because he... Like, Jaws isn't based on, like, a shark attack. Like, a shark attacking a community. It's about I mean, it is about that, but at the core of what it is, which is why people love it, is it's about this family that's struggling and this kid that's struggling with his parents, you know, ultimately wanting to get divorced or something. And he just focuses so much more on character, which my teacher this semester has really emphasized on, which has made me realize like how important character is, because it's the only way that like a person can connect with a story.
Well, it's like Free Solo, how
yeah,
you want to talk about that?
well, it's like at the core of it, sure, it's this guy doing this amazing feat, but it's also the fact that like Alex Honnold started where basically he just didn't have friends, and that's why he had to free solo. And then it turns into like him trying to climb this, you know, insane feat to finding a girlfriend, and then it turning into a love story, and him like I don't know. I think that that's why it's so effective. When you look at like documentaries, I mean, I just watched the Tiger Woods documentary, and I think that doc is so effective because it tells the story of like him as a kid, and you're able to like develop more of a connection with him based on like, okay, this is how he grew up. This is why he did what he did. I feel like a lot of people don't focus on that when they focus on their characters. They're like, oh, my character just happened to be in like the middle of the galaxy with just a helmet on, and now let's figure out what his life is like since then. But there's like a past to every person in a film that I think a lot of people in film school, especially, because not to cut you off, but
You just did.
yeah, I know. But I think, you know, it's really interesting too, because when you first get into like these classes, everyone's just like, okay, so what do you want to do in the industry? Like, what genres do you want? Like, if you had to create your dream story, what would it be? And a lot of screenwriters, and I feel like a lot of film majors are like, oh, like, I'm really into sci-fi. I'm really into dramas. I'm really into like these certain genres. And then like when I think about it, I think of like the certain stories that I want to tell. Like, I would love to write this certain character. Like, I've always wanted to write a character about that's sort of based on like my high school experience, or just write like a true story about like eating disorders, because I feel like that's something that's not talked about. And, you know, just certain characters of, you know, basing off of like the Tiger Woods documentary, I find like parents who push their kids at such a young age to be this like messiah in a certain way, because that's what Tiger Woods' whole life was. I think that that's such an interesting subject, because at some point, like, you break away from that mold and you have to figure out, well, what am I without my parents pushing me? So, like, those are the kinds of stories I want to tell. I don't know what genre they're going to fall into, but I know, like, the characters that are based on them. And I feel like a lot of people don't. Maybe they do, but from what I've seen is everyone always focuses on, I want to write sci-fi. I want to write like these certain genres. But I don't think a lot of people focus on like how important character is. They just focus on story. Like every note in my last, even my notes too, every note in my last writing the pilot class were like, okay, that's the story, but what are the characters? And everyone's like,
for the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they're like, I don't know.
Well, the characters drive the story.
Yeah, and the characters drive the story. I mean, you can even look at it too, like Greta Gerwig directed Lady Bird,
Yes.
and Barry Jenkins directed Moonlight, and they did a podcast on A24 that's really great. And they talk about how their story is based in a place, but that place is a person. Like when you think of Lady Bird, yeah, when you think of Lady Bird, you think, okay, yeah, sure, it's Saoirse Ronan's character, but another character is Sacramento. Like that plays a huge part into what these characters do.
I'm into that, dude.
Yeah.
I think Places as characters
I think Places
is
too.
fucking gnarly.
It's crazy. And
You can do
Moonlight,
some
how
crazy,
like
crazy stuff.
You know, when like Little and Black and Chiron, they're all like in this place in Florida, and Florida becomes a person because it shapes the way that these characters mold. I think a lot of people too don't focus on place.
Well, and you can breathe like life into a place,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
lack thereof.
Yeah.
Like you can make place just drown you out.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like, I want an explosion on page 10.
Yeah.
Versus like, I think it would be great to like, for me at least, like I've always dreamed since high school of writing a story about Virginia Beach because I think it's such an interesting place to grow up in and like to have sort of an effect on me as a person. And so I look at like the Lady Birds and the Barry Jenkins. I mean, Barry Jenkins grew up in Florida and, you know, Greta Gerwig grew up in Sacramento. And they took those experiences from those places, but they made it their own person and like breathed life into it.
That's the goal, though.
Yeah, that's a goal. And I think that's
no
cool.
easy task.
Yeah, and I think that that's great because another thing too, like when I look at, if I want to do documentary work, I think it's really important for docs to look at the place too and the people, and I think that they do that very effectively. Like you look at Free Solo, and I think that they really took hold of the place that they were in and
I disagree.
showcased well. Really?
Yosemite. They
They
had, like,
showcased El
Google-
Cap,
Yeah, but not. I guess.
but not
like,
to a certain extent.
like there's a difference between showcasing as in saying, oh, here's a brief history of El Cap
Yeah.
and blah 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 blah, but like the like dude, like that's what I think so powerful about places is like the feelings that they give you.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm a big fan of now like the desert in Moab,
Yeah.
and there's like
Moab's
these
sick.
just places that you go to that have these like they feel like they're like alive or like just different to certain people.
Yeah.
And that you feel like just different and have a different mindset, and obviously for Alex Honnold and among lots of other people, and it's kind of cliche that we're using Free Solo as an example.
Yeah,
but
we
I
gotta start
think-
using something else.
Well, no, it's good because I assume most people that listen to this podcast
Have seen Free
and
Solo.
listened to it, and they can actually identify with what we're
Yeah.
talking about. But I think that they could have. I mean, this is me. Monday night quarterback.
You meet Jimmy Chin in
whatever.
5 years, you're like, I'm so sorry for what I said.
But yeah, shout out Jimmy Chin.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Nope,
Dude.
Chai Vassarelli.
Okay, both. They're freaking incredible. Anyway, I think that they could have. Well, they focused a lot on the characters, but I think Alex's interpretation of like El Cap and stuff. Fuck.
Well,
I feel
think-
like I can't say shit right
well,
now.
I
dude.
think what I can take away from Free Solo that you've taken away and then, mash it together is that Free, it was so easy for people to be able to say, wow, like Alex Honnold did something crazy, because you could ask like a 5-year-old child and be like, do you think that that's crazy? And they'd be like, yeah, that looks like a big wall. And so like everyone understands like climbing without a rope, climbing a massive wall without a rope, like doing the karate kick thing without a rope, like all of that seems insane, and his preparation up to it. But I think what would be interesting is to try and figure out like, okay, if it wasn't El Cap and it was something less than, how do you make that place seem bigger than what it was? Because of course El Cap is huge.
And the visual spectacle.
Yeah, and the visual
of El Cap.
spectacle.
You know what I've thought about in those stories?
Go for it.
Imagine like you have the whole build up and then it ends.
Yeah.
Like when he grabs the wall.
Yeah.
Because in a way, he's gonna do it. And so, well, at least for me, in a weird way, him doing the actual climb was like, and it's cool because they knew this because it only takes up probably 10 minutes at the end. So it's like, okay, like we know you're gonna do it. Otherwise, like he's alive,
Yeah.
And there's definitely some like tension, but I like personally, I like the build up more than the actual like release of doing it, which
Yeah.
is weird because it's the climax. Like to me, the climax. There's this one scene when he's driving up to Yosemite, like the days before he does El Cap, and there's like this quote that he says that just like really resonated with me. It was oh gosh, here we go. It really resonated with me, but let's see if I
Yeah,
remember.
exactly. Just like I forgot Steven Spielberg's fucking name.
The quote was, "It's about being a warrior. It's not about the cause necessarily, but this is your path, and you will pursue it with excellence." It was like that. It was that quote, and I go back and rewatch that part all the time. He's just like driving in his van, because what I admire more than
The climb.
the climb is well, you could say it's about the journey, not the destination. But
Well,
it's more the fact that he's like in a way like a violin player. And
Yeah.
he's been like practicing this concerto, and now this is
Yeah.
his performance in front of the whole world.
Yeah.
Because the whole world, like, whether they knew it or not at the time that they would care about this, they would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just pretty. I don't know.
Well, I think that you can look at that as being like, oh, it's so interesting that was just 10 minutes of his life. And
It
like,
was not
why
10,
would
it was 4 hours.
Or well, no.
of
But
the
10
film,
minutes
you
of the
mean.
film.
Yeah.
And I look at it as like, well, our 50. Like, think about, we trained for like, what was it?
14
weeks.
16 weeks.
16 weeks.
4 months.
Yeah, we trained for 4 months for it. And then it just is over in a day. All that we trained for. It kind of relates to like that whole journey of just doing extreme things.
Dude, I wonder
'cause
if
you
he
have to
felt
train for it.
satisfied. I think he did.
I think he did.
I think
I
it's
anyone
I think
that
it's
does that.
unfair for us to actually. Yeah, he 100% did.
He
It's
100%
unfair for us to compare that because a 50 is not nearly.
No, it's not nearly.
Maybe
but
if
I
we
was.
did 240,
I wasn't.
then that would be like.
I
but
wasn't
even then-
comparing it to what we did, but I was comparing it to a real life situation.
Yeah.
Of you're like, oh, why was that only 10 minutes of the, or why was that like the climax, those last 10 minutes of the film? And it's kind of like, well, you think about it as like, well, for the 50, like 4 months out of our lives we're training, and then one day we did it, and then that's it.
So
Like, now our 50's
do you
over.
feel satisfied
I feel okay because I thought it was really interesting.
after? So wait.
So
for
people who don't
context-
know.
Context.
So
No, I'm gonna give context first.
okay, give context first.
We ran it on Saturday and it's Wednesday.
Ran it on
And
Saturday.
we were to do it the day after, or the day after that, or the day after that.
Yeah.
We're a little tired.
Yeah.
So now I think we have the energy to be able to talk for
Talk
a decent
about it
amount about it.
effectively,
So I
yeah.
guess we'll do that now. Mm-hmm. Did you want to say anything else before we get into the 50
Well,
stuff?
I was just gonna get into how it started.
Okay. Action.
So, and action. So 16 weeks ago, you came to me and
Damn right.
said, hey, do you want to run a 50 miler? Because Max knew I was a runner. To a certain extent.
I knew, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You
yeah.
knew I could run. I ran.
I knew you ran every day.
Yeah, I ran every day.
And you loved running because
Because it is a very therapeutic thing for me.
is or was.
I think it still is. I mean, even during the 50, I mean, we can get more into it, but there was this point when I just like really meditated and honed in on like, I love running, I love running, I love running, even when it got tough. But I think now it's taken on a different context because I can see how hard I can push myself. But before, it was very much like, because, you know, especially freshman year, I don't know if you struggled with this. But freshman year
Of college.
freshman year of college, you live in a dorm with 2 other people. You go to class with 10 other people. You walk along the streets with 50 other people. Like, there's constantly people around you, and like you can't escape them. And sometimes I would come back to my dorm, and I love my roommates. Like, I still live with Sasha. I'm still best friends with Hannah. Like, I loved them. But I think even they were like, oh my God, can we catch a break from like not being around someone? I mean, I don't know if you felt that way too freshman year. Of like,
Well,
you
that's
would-
why I did what I did originally.
Yeah, exactly.
My running
So
thing.
my whole
I was
thing
like, fuck
was-
this.
yeah, and I
need to
worked at-
feel something.
Yeah, and I worked at Starbucks too, so I was just constantly around people. And for like an hour out of my day, I could just be alone. And so running was very much like that therapy of taking me out of my world and being able to think and listen to music and get pumped up for the day. And if I didn't start my day off with a run, I felt awful because I felt like I didn't take time to myself. So that's what running stood for me. Freshman year, sophomore year, and then you came to me with the idea of running a 50. And I was like, no. Not no, but I was like, I don't know. Running doesn't mean it in that way. Like
So it wasn't even that it was like, oh, this is crazy.
no. Because I knew I could do it.
But how? Because, so, all right, for context, up to this point, you'd run how far? It was the farthest you'd ran.
Probably like 6 miles.
Okay, 6 miles, and you average ran 5 a day.
Yeah.
Which is good because it's consistent.
Yeah.
But in your mind, there was no concept of like you were like, oh, maybe I'll run a marathon someday. But
Yeah.
you didn't have training
No.
schedule since middle school, high school.
Yeah, middle school. I mean, well, high school I ran cross country my senior year.
Okay.
That's
And
about
did you were you how competitive were you?
Not competitive.
So is this for fun?
No, I mean, because I went to school with a lot of very talented athletes, and I was good at sports in middle school because I went to a school of 5 kids in my grade.
So your odds were
I was
improved.
a superstar. But then in high school, I like went to a school where everyone was like a record-breaking athlete. I don't even know. It was insane. And so I was like, I'm just going to do cross country for fun. And even running for me, like, I never saw it as a competitiveness because I knew the odds were kind of against me in the shorter distances. Because I'm 5'3". I'm not like a twig. And I just knew, like, competing against these girls that were 5'7", like, super thin but built up, like, were meant to run. I was like, there's no way. Like, I could definitely beat them in like a 10, 15 miler because I have the mental strength and the confidence and the cockiness to do it.
And the cockiness.
But not in like the 5K races that we were doing. I mean, I would do a 5K in like 26 minutes.
How did you know you had that mental strength?
I don't know. I've just like, well, I knew before the 50 that I could definitely do it because I became a more confident person. But
You became?
yeah, I think I became a more confident person.
When?
Oh my God.
And why?
Well, I mean, I think that's such a hard question. I think I was.
Is it a good question?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I think I was a very confident person in elementary school and middle school because, well, okay. I was a really confident person in elementary school and middle school, but it wasn't confidence coming from myself. It was confidence in myself because other people were confident in me.
Damn.
It was like
That's
a fake
quote, dude.
It was like a fake confidence. It was pretty because I was thinking about it last night. I was talking to one of my friends, Luke, who's a screenwriting major at Chapman, and he was asking me about like my high school experience because we had to do it for our research class. And, you know, I started thinking about it and I was like, it's so interesting because, you know, in elementary and middle school, it was a lot of people being like, you are a superstar because it was very easy to shine at my like elementary and middle school. And also because my parents were like, Juliet, you're the best. Like they're great parents, but it's really hard when all the time your parents are saying, you're the best, you're the best. And like, you know, I just wanted to like prove myself and prove something to other people.
When you were younger.
Yeah, when I was younger. And so I was super confident in myself. And at a point, like kind of cocky. Like super cocky.
At a point?
Yeah, at a point, like very cocky.
You think that stopped?
Well, I think it stopped for a little bit because I was like a very big deal in like elementary and middle school.
Really? So I'm talking to a big deal right now.
You are talking to a big deal. Because it was so easy. I went to
be successful?
Yeah, because I went to school where I had the biggest graduating class, which was 25 kids. And so think about it. Like 1 out of 25, sure, someone's going to know your name. Like it was very easy to do well there. I was like an honor roll student. I was in like the top 15 at my cross country meets in 5th grade. I ran cross country. I did volleyball, basketball,
So you're a savage.
soccer. I would perform in the talent shows. I did School of Rock.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a pretty big deal.
And then you got to high school.
And then I got to high school and shit hit the fan. Because it's so hard now looking back at it. I mean, I think that it's great because I can look back at it now and be like, well, it made me the person I am. Blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it, like I found a lot of my confidence through other people being confident in me. And then I went to high school where literally in 10th grade, 5 of the field hockey girls were already committed to colleges like Stanford and Georgetown and UV. Like, so it was really hard to be a star at a school at that school.
And so
Norfolk
then-
Academy is the name. And if
Yeah.
you don't get from the name, it's a difficult school.
So then you got to college, and you were confident running, and you were confident in yourself, kind of? Or when did you start to, because you talked about how you found that confidence again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard because in high school, I just didn't really, I still had drive, I think, which is what got me through it and got me out of high school, like, alive, is because I still knew, like, at the core of who I was like, I'm going to do great things, but right now is a really difficult time. Because I just, like, I was constantly surrounded by, you know, kids who were not only stars on, like, the football, soccer field, hockey field, fill in the blank there, but then they were getting 4.0s. And then they were also doing, like, concertos on the side. Like, I don't even, it was
Concertos
or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, like, it's kind of crazy. And then I was like, well, I mean, I'm, like, okay at running, and I'm okay at soccer, and I'm okay at this. Like, I was never really great at anything. And even if I was, I always felt like there was someone better because they were getting the affirmation from other people.
It's so funny that, like, you say this, because my first interpretation of you is that you're just, like, the shit at everything, and you know it.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
all right, wait, so this is something funny. So I'll
Go
tell
for it.
Juliet, I'll be like, oh, you look beautiful today. She'll be like, I know. There you go. That's all you need
Yeah.
to know. But I don't know. It's just interesting to hear this perspective, and I've heard it before. But because the way that you portrayed yourself outwardly was way different than what you felt inwardly.
Well,
It seemed
yeah.
like.
Because, I mean, I think freshman year was a lot of, like, rebuilding who I was as a person.
Of
Because,
college.
yeah, freshman year of college. Because it was a lot of, like, I got myself out of an environment where I didn't really feel like I was myself. You know, you're kind of stuck in a bubble. And I had to not compete, but I had to sort of mold myself into, you know, I went to a school that was like 1st through 12th grade. And so a lot of the friend groups were already formed when I came in 9th grade. And so I kind of had to mold myself and shape myself into the kind of person that my friend group was, and then what they wanted, like what I needed to, like, click in and fit the mold. And so I sort of became accustomed to being like a very loud, kind of crazy person who was a part of that friend group, which is like a great friend group. I'm still friends with most of them. And, you know, I think like we all have seen like how we've grown and stuff. And most of them go to school in Virginia. But coming out of it, I was like, that wasn't who I was. Like, I was not that person. I was a very bossy, rude.
Noted.
I was like a bitch. I was a straight up bitch. Because that's what I had to do to, like, fit in. And that sucked. I really didn't like that. Even my family would notice it. And they would be like, why are you this different person? And then when I came out to California, I was surrounded by a lot of, like, incredible people. A lot of, like, powerhouses of women, like Sasha and, like, Hannah and Camila. Shout out Camila. Because I think Camila, like, honestly, she was a huge, not even big.
She was on the podcast, too.
She was on the podcast. If
Number
you haven't
2.
listened to her podcast, stop my podcast right now and immediately go to Camila's. Because she was a huge influence on, even though, because now I know, like, you know, everything is not what it seems on the surface and whatever. But I saw her as, like, an insanely confident, insanely talented person. And I saw parts of me in her. Like, we always talk about all the time, we're just very similar people. And
So then you kind of, you met all these amazing people.
yeah, I
and
met all
those
these amazing
things.
people.
And
yeah.
then when did you develop that confidence, and how did that go into running?
I think it was like fake it until you make it. Freshman year, at least.
Okay. And
because I was like, okay, I mean, I don't really, it was a lot of like, I don't really like the way I look. I don't really like the way I feel. I don't feel like confident in myself. So then I was like, Juliet, shut up. Like, come on, let's try at least like giving yourself a compliment a day or something. And then it got to this point of like that middle school drive coming back, but in a very different way. Of like, I really don't need a lot of people telling me like you're doing great things, because I know I'm doing great things and that I'm gonna do great things.
Damn
It's
straight.
a lot of like, but it took a lot of work. I think that, you know, like some people have even asked me too, like some of my friends from back home and a couple people here and there, because I am a very confident person. And I'm like, honestly, I can't tell you how to become a confident person, because it's a different journey for everyone. But for me, it was like hitting like a very low and then coming out of that low, because it was when I was in Virginia Beach. And that's kind of a reason why I don't usually like to stay home for longer periods of time, because sometimes I feel like I slip into it a little bit. But it was coming out of my environment where I felt like I was in the lowest low, and being in a completely different space with a new set of people, and just being able to figure out like, okay, that obviously wasn't who I am. Well, who am I? And just doing that completely alone, like with no outer forces, not my parents, not my siblings, not my friends, not my professors, new. Bruh.
Damn, that was good.
Damn straight.
So you started thinking, you're figuring that out now.
Or I started figuring it out freshman year
Okay.
about how to like build confidence for myself. And I think it was doing a lot of things too that like were uncomfortable for me to do.
Which is like how you got into the 50.
Yeah, which I think is, well,
What? Yeah. So how did that appeal to you? Because a lot of people run.
yeah.
I know a lot of people that run marathons and they just run marathons, but it's another thing to want to do a 50
Yeah.
or an ultra.
I mean, I don't know. I just have like, I have,
Because it can't just be, so for like, we're dating and sure, like, I'm like, whoa. So me being like, oh, Juliet, let's do this. I'm sure a part of you was like, well, if Max can do it, I can do it.
yeah, 100%.
So there you go. That is that. But, and I knew this when I asked you, because I was like, it would be really fun if we could do it together, but it can't just be that, because it's like long enough.
Well, I think it was, most of it is just the fact that I know me as a person, and if I set my mind to something, like, I will do it. No matter how it gets done, like, it may be ugly, but it's gonna get done. And when you came to me and were like, oh, I'm running this 50, like, do you want to run it with me? Like, a few things that went through my mind were like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Like, I can do anything a guy can do, because that's, like, something that's been a big bother in my life. If he can do it, I can do it. I've been running longer than him, so yeah, I can do it. And then another thing, too, is, like, I don't want you to cross the finish line, like, by yourself and be like, I did that by myself. And then I'm like, I could have done that. Like, think what a missed opportunity to even just at least try. So then I was like, sure, why not? I think also, too, I was getting too comfortable with running 5 miles a day or even 3 miles a day.
And now, like, think about that distance.
Yeah, no.
Like running.
I could
3 or
go
5
out
a
right
day.
now and run 3 miles easy, come back in and be like, who wants to, like, go and run 10 more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which is crazy, though, because, like, for me, when I started running a year ago, my runs were around that distance. Like, my long run
Well, you
this
didn't even-
spring was 4 miles.
Like, the crazy thing to me, because I know you keep...
Well, not this spring, a year
I
ago.
honestly feel bad because I know you keep saying, like, Juliet, it's crazy. Like, you were running 5 miles before this. But you didn't run at all. Like, you skied your whole life. I mean, I guess that's a big part of it. But, like, running for me has been, like, my grandpa was, like, 81 years old when he did the New York City Marathon. And my dad has been running. Yeah, savage. So I've been around running since I was, like, a little kid. There's a picture of me. My dad was running a marathon or something. And I'm right at the finish line with my thumbs up and, like, a number bib. And,
I mean, my mom runs marathons. Like, she's ran a couple.
yeah, but my dad runs, like, marathons every single year. He's not doing it now because he got his hip replaced.
Do you ever think you'll run a marathon?
100%.
Just to, like, go do
I
it?
definitely want to do the New York City Marathon with my dad.
Okay, that would be, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause-
But I meant, like, just for yourself. Like, do you have any desire to do that now?
No, I know I can push myself harder. I think that it's crazy because
Like, you're 20, and
yeah.
you're like, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, I always thought too, like another thing with, I know that I can run and I can run the distance, but for me, I would have never seen like running 50 miles and then come to you and been like, Max, we should run 50 miles. Because for me, doing races and stuff was always my dad coming to me saying, hey, Juliet, do you want to do this 10K? Or do you want to do like the turkey
So
trot?
people coming to you.
Yeah, people
rather
coming
than
to
you
me.
manifesting
Yeah.
it?
Not rather than, I just didn't seek out races because I didn't see running as being a race.
It's not a race.
Because
Like,
because I didn't want, well, yeah, but I didn't want it to become competitive because that's when my nature comes out and then
Which
it
is
makes
what?
it, I'm a super competitive person and like I need to do well. And for me at that point in my life, running was a very therapeutic thing. It was never something where I was like, I want to compete at this. I want to be like doing this at a higher level because it was a time that I took to myself.
Are you sad that it's not that way anymore?
No, I love the fact that now I like even just
Describe it now.
like
So
even
then it was
sitting-
therapeutic, and now
yeah,
it's
now
what?
I'm like itching. Like I need to run 100 because I feel like now. I mean, I now can appreciate what a 50 is to a certain extent. I think right now how I see a 50. I'm taking it in because I know that how you've been explaining it makes me sad because right now I'm like, I want to run 100. I want to run 100. But, you know, I'm seeing a 50 as like, this is a big stepping stone of like, I know I could do that.
It's not the end for you.
Yeah, and it's not the end.
Was it ever the end? So, well, that's what I don't know. So for me personally, 50 has always been like, okay, I'm gonna do 50, but it's like really, it's just like I'm gonna do 100 because that was always my goal. So I ran a marathon freshman year.
Right.
Well, I ran the first, I don't know. So basically, my running thing started. I'll just go into that real quick. So you basically did your whole life. For me, it was freshman year. I'll go through it because I don't want to talk about myself a lot. But I ran to the beach from
To the beach.
from
I
my
ran
dorm.
to the beach.
I didn't
It
care
was
how
2
far it was. I
miles.
was like, I want to run to the beach from my dorm because I was just bored and I wanted to feel challenged. And I did it. And I was like, oh, I bet I could do a marathon. And then I ran a marathon, and then I was like, oh, I signed up for a 50-miler 2 days after that, but my body was like, ah ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
So then I took a year and like tried running and stuff, and it was failing, and my knees were all messed up, and then I stopped for probably like 3 months just to let my body completely like recover.
Yeah.
And then I started training, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a 50. Mm-hmm. And we'd been dating at that point, and when did I start running with you?
Well, there have been some traumatic experiences before that where you would run with me and I was really annoyed with you.
Well, because I was used to running with my friends in Steamboat where it was like
competitive.
yeah. But I started running in Bozeman this summer when I lived up there essentially. And well, actually no, in the spring during Corona, I was in the Steamboat at my house, and I crashed biking really bad, and I was just kind of over biking. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do running again. Mm-hmm. And then I did like a 4-mile long run on the weekends, and then like 1 or 2, like it was small. And then I worked my way up, and then eventually I came to you and I was like, let's run 50.
Yeah.
And so then back to your thoughts on, okay, you said no, right?
I didn't say no. I said I don't know because I did not see, because I think running for me was just not a competitive space because the last couple years of middle school and through high school, I wasn't a good racer. Like I'd felt so down on myself in sports through high school because I knew I wasn't the best. And I was like, well, why am I going to compete if I'm not the best? Like, what's the point? Because I'd grown up my whole life being like, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And then you're shown like, no, you're not. And it's very clear at the school that I went to, I was not. So I think for me, I was like, I don't want the opportunity to fail. And I don't want the opportunity to lose. And so I was like, if I think of this as something that's like super therapeutic, I also think running has taken a lot of like different, running has been interpreted a lot of different ways in my life, like throughout my whole life. And so at that point, I saw it as something that was very therapeutic and a time for me, and I didn't want to have to compete with someone and then feel like I failed and then feel bad about running and then have to find something else that I feel good about myself doing. But then when I started doing it, and I remember like we did 8 miles before we did 12 miles in like the first week.
Started doing the training.
Yeah, when we started doing the training.
And my context is you were not psyched on doing training
Well,
originally.
yeah,
You were
because I
like,
saw that there were sprints, and I'm 5'3" and have stubby legs, and I was never a good sprinter.
That doesn't mean that you can't do sprints. Though.
But that, in my opinion, I was like, I'm bad at sprints, so I can't do sprints.
Dude, that's my biggest pet peeve in life.
But-
when people are like, I'm like, oh, let's go do this, and they're like, well, I've never done it, or I'm bad at it, so I don't
Yeah,
want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
Oh my god.
No, now it pisses me off too, because I'm like, well, I don't know what I can't do. I literally ran 50 miles.
Yeah.
Like, come at me. But
Okay, cocky.
I know. Well, not cocky, just
Competitive.
confident.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think just like trying it out. But
So
I remember
you started the training.
yeah, I started the training, and I remember we did the 8 miles the first weekend of training, and then we did 12 miles the second weekend.
So
of
how
training.
it works is you run probably two or 3 days a week during the week, and then you, in the beginning at least, you have one day during the weekend where it's your long run.
Yeah.
So your long run in the beginning was like
Yeah.
only 8 miles.
Yeah.
And the second week was 12 miles, and then you kind of like add on and add on and add on, and then your weekly running. So we'd run, it was Monday rest day, Tuesday run, Wednesday strength, Thursday run, Friday small run, Saturday rest, Sunday long
big run.
Yeah.
And so
and it would like build up throughout.
Yeah.
So we did 16 weeks, which is 4 months. And we
yeah,
started in
4 months
October.
of just like building up a run. But I remember when we did the first 12 miles, and I ran in Anaheim, Anacrime.
Shout out
And
Anacrime.
shout out Anacrime. And I was doing like 8-minute 30 miles for 12 miles straight.
Which
and I
is
was like,
pretty bonkers.
yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
Shout
like,
out Henry
this
Hume,
is,
though.
Yeah.
I have a friend named Henry Hume, and he runs like 6:30 miles.
Really?
For like 10 miles.
For 10
straight.
miles?
Fucking nuts.
Okay,
dude.
so I guess I got to do that now. Thanks, Max.
gosh.
But I did that run, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I just remember thinking afterwards, I came back into my apartment and I lied on the ground, and Sasha was there, and she asked, wait, how many miles did you just run? And I was like, 12. And she's like, what?
Because that was your first time.
Yeah, that's the first time I'd ever run 12 miles. And I felt really good on the run. I was listening to the Beyonce Homecoming live album from Coachella. The whole entire run, I felt so confident during that. And I was like, yeah, no, this is going to happen. I mean, it's really interesting too, because you start running longer distances in the beginning, and you're like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And you see like those 22 miles looming, and you're like, at some point, I
That
have to
was-
run.
When did we do 22?
I remember-
No, 2.5 months in.
Yeah, 2.5 months in. I just remember being at home for the first 22 miler.
Yeah.
And so I ran it in Virginia Beach. And I remember looking at that 22 miles, and I was like, how do I do that? Like, how does someone do that? But then I was like, no, I got this. Like, it's such a buildup.
And
And
the farthest we ran before that was 16? Or
yeah,
18?
16.
No, 18.
No, 18. We did 18.
But over 20 just feels
Yeah,
longer.
over 20 just feels long, and then you get to over 30, and that feels long. But, you know, it's just a buildup. And, you know, I remember running 22 and getting to 22 and being like, wow. I mean, I remember when we ran 18 in Laguna, and you were like, dude, isn't that crazy that we do that, and then we do that again, and then we do a little bit more of that, and then we're done. I was like, what are we getting ourselves into? But I think for me, like, the thing that kept me going was like, you know, it's all pretty doable, because you're not taking these massive steps. Like, you can't really think, you can think big picture when you're doing ultras. And I think you kind of have to set goals, but really it's all about that, like, training and how you
Slow
recover and
build up.
how you eat well and
Sleep.
yeah, sleep. 100%. I don't think I've been I don't think I've ever had a better nutrition plan and more sleep than in these past 4 months, which I think is really cool. Just to be able to see like how important it is to like put food in your body so that way you can run these longer distances, and what you eat matters when you run, and how much you drink matters when you run. It's a lot of like, you really need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is something that I don't think a lot of people do, and I certainly didn't do.
No, totally.
Before that.
And then we did then basically you get towards like the second half, like middle end of the training, and you start doing back-to-back runs on the weekends. So our first back-to-back was 12, right? So instead of having 2 long days, one long day, you have 2 back-to-back.
2 back-to-back, and they aren't long, they're longer. Or not longer. They're longer than... Well, I mean, now I don't consider 10 miles... I think it's really interesting, too, how perspective changes.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I'll still give, like, a mile what a mile deserves.
Yeah.
You know?
But the first one was 12 back-to-back.
Yeah, 12
And then it was
back-to-back.
15 back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then it was... I think... Then it was 20... No, it wasn't.
I think it was a 10. Well, anyways, but then you start doing back-to-back runs, and that's how you build. And
then eventually you do a 10 miles and then 32 miles.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest weekend and run that you do before 50.
Yeah, and I did it 2 weeks before, and I did it all by myself, which I think was really cool. First off, like the first 16 miles, I spent, you're like listening to music and listening to well, no, that was the last 16 miles. But I think it was really interesting because in that 32-mile run, I took out my headphones and I stopped listening to music and I stopped listening to podcasts, and I was able to like focus on my run. And it was a very interesting run for me that I didn't think I realized until the 50. Because now I think about it and I'm like, I just want to go out and run, like no music, no podcasts, just like me and like listening to my run. And so I think the 32 was really interesting because sure, for the last 16 miles, I was looking for my car keys because I had lost my car keys. But then I was also like listening to like the pains in my body, and I was able to be like, okay, well...
It was more meditative.
Yeah, it was more meditative, but then I was able to focus on, okay, well, my right calf hurts, so I should probably stretch my right calf out and like make sure to like... I mean, of course, I didn't end up stretching that week, but I was like, I should probably stretch my right calf. But I think it's really interesting running without headphones, and I recommend it because
it's harder though.
It's harder, but it's so much more gratifying at the end of the run.
I ran the 32 with headphones.
Yeah, I know you did, and you ran the 32 with me too. Parts of it. I ran like 9 miles of it.
And the 32 honestly felt. Was it hard for you? Because for you, that was your first marathon, and it was.
That was my first. Yeah, past a marathon.
6 miles past a marathon.
Yeah, I think it was pretty difficult. I mean, I can't really remember the difficulty of it because I was so focused on finding my car keys, which I did end up losing.
Well, no, you talk about Park Ave.
Yeah, but Park Ave was like.
Park Ave is. You want to explain what Park Ave is?
Park Avenue is a street in bless you. Bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is a street in Laguna.
Laguna Beach is in California. It's like 20 minutes away from us.
And it's a street that goes up to the residential neighborhood near Top of the World.
It's 1,000 feet above sea level.
1,000 feet.
So it's zero. It's basically 1,000. It's like 800 feet of vert.
It's 800 feet of vert.
In like a mile.
In like a mile.
It's insane.
Yeah. And you go up it and you're like, and it's on pavement too, which hurts. But at like mile 26 or 27, when I was running the 32, I had to go up it because that was the way that I'd gone down when I lost my keys. So I had to retrace my steps. And I was dying. I was like, I would try and set these little goals for myself because I think in the moment you kind of have to. And you have to be like, okay, I just need to get there. And then I just need to get there. And then I just need to get there. And if you can at least accomplish those little goals, it feels gratifying.
To the next pole.
Yeah, to the next pole. And then I was going up Park Ave, and I was like, okay, Juliet, just like run a little bit to the bush. And then I couldn't run to the bush, and I was like, all right, we're going to stop here, and then maybe we'll run to the tree. And I couldn't run to the tree, and my legs were like giving out. So I had to just walk up it, which you're supposed to do. But I never do what you're supposed to do on these training things.
Classic.
Yeah.
So you did that, finished, and
Yeah.
then how did you feel going into the 50?
I wasn't really nervous because, A, we didn't race. Like, we weren't in a race. There wasn't a time cutoff.
We just did it.
We just did it. And I think that that's the best way to do...
Start ultras.
Yeah, start ultras. Because, at least for me, I mean, this is what I used to do in middle school when I would run cross country, is I would start really fast, like, right out the gate. Because I was just so pumped and high up on energy. And then in the middle, I would, like, pace myself. And then at the end, I would run fast. So I think if I were in a 50-mile race, I'd be doing, like, 10-minute miles the first 20. And then my knees would give out. And because I'm just such a competitive person.
Well, you talked about, you were, like, talking shit before we did the 50. You're like, I think I could do 10-minute miles. Like, look, if I really,
no.
like, if I think about it, I think I could do 10-minute miles.
I think I definitely could have done some faster miles in there, here and there. I think, you know, a couple takeaways I learned, which I don't know
If you weren't dragging me along.
I know.
We'll get to that. Don't do your takeaways about
I won't do my takeaways, but I think I'll say that, you know, I think it was good to, like, take this first one slow, because I think this 50 was more about the mental hurdle of being like, okay, I can do ultras. Because before it was like, can you do? Like...
Was it ever, though? I don't think for you it
No,
was
I don't
ever.
think it ever was.
Same
But I
with
think
me.
for other people, I think I knew, my parents definitely knew that I could do it, because they know how psycho I am, and that if someone tells me, no, you can't, or, oh, I think, then I'll do it. So there was no doubt coming from anyone, but it was like, oh, wow, you're running 50 miles. And
How many people did you tell?
I told my parents, I told my brother and sister, I think I told a couple of my friends, but I don't think most of them
Understood that?
understood it until like a week before.
Or they were
a
like,
couple days
okay,
before.
Juliet.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting, so what you mentioned was the lack of an option for quitting, right? Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people quit because they don't know what it feels like to quit. Mm-hmm. But, like, for me, for example, like, I never, ever thought during this 50 that I was going to quit.
No, I never
Not
thought of it.
a single
Not
second.
a single second.
There's, I mean, like, in your mind, you're like, oh, like, it would be great to be able to stop. But, like,
Yeah.
as soon as you think about, like, how, imagine, dude, whenever I wasn't motivated, I think about this.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to quit and have her finish because that'd fucking be so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Number two.
Oh, your male ego.
Yeah,
Your
the
fragile,
ego.
fragile
We'll talk
male
about
ego.
that. We'll talk
Male
about
ego.
that. But number two was like, imagine getting in the car and you're like, oh, like I'm done, I'm tired, and then say we both quit, just for shits and gigs. Ha 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 ha. We both quit and we're driving back and we go to bed. You're laying down your comfy little bed.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck.
Well, now I think about it, even with
That would've
running,
sucked.
even with running 100, because
You-
100
be
is
careful.
Well,
Be careful, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, like on the 100, when we do 100, there's no way that I'm gonna quit. But the difference between
Yeah.
50 and 100 seems like a lot.
yeah.
And like quitting is like, but like people piss blood, dude. People
Yeah.
have like issues. Like they
Well, I think now-
break things, like
Yeah.
fuck themselves up. And sure, we were like sore and our knees got messed
Ow,
up.
my knee hurts.
But like we were like I don't know, I was in bad shape, but I was like moving, like I
Yeah.
could move. It didn't feel great.
Yeah, see, my whole thing
But
now is
people,
like,
like,
if I
get
can,
Fucking
yeah,
like, you
if I
could
can
die
move
if
and
you mess
my
up your
blood
nutrition.
oxygen level isn't
Yeah.
below 70, then I'm gonna keep like, because I don't know.
But like
I think
Courtney
too,
DeWalter quit her first 100.
Yeah, which I think is, you
Courtney
look at what
DeWalter's a
she's.
savage. Check her out.
Check her out.
She's
She's
Juliet's
my.
new freaking.
No, she's not. Well, she is my new, but she'll forever be. Like, I think that she's.
No, I know, but you didn't know about her. Until,
Yeah, I didn't know about her until
like,
the,
a
which
month
I think
ago.
is crazy. Which is why, and no one steal my idea from this podcast. I need to hop on that doc, because it's insane. Like, think about, she is such a powerhouse of an athlete, and she's like killing the game. I mean, she's doing insane 240 miles. That's crazy. And she won. And she beat the next guy by 10 hours.
That's like full female savagery.
Yeah, but it's
Which
also
is-
full. What I think is cool because
Well, I meant full female as in it's cool. that
yeah, that you know,
she beat the next person who happened
and
to be
a guy,
a guy.
by 10 hours.
Yeah. Then again, Killian wasn't there.
Yeah, Killian was not there. But Killian's also like, I climb and I eat one energy bar and I climb
tired.
20,000 feet above.
My feet are tired.
I'm a little, my head's spinning, but
My head is tired.
I go to lunch.
Oh god.
See, there's not. I think he's a glitch in the Matrix. I think that's.
Dude, there's
why.
a couple glitches.
There's
in
a
the
couple
Matrix.
glitches.
Courtney's about there to the glitch in the Matrix
No,
level.
Courtney's just.
But
Courtney's
Alex
just a
Honnold's a
badass.
glitch in the Matrix. There's a couple
Yeah.
people who are just like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, but I think that like, oh my god, what even was your question?
We were talking about how she's a badass woman in a field dominated by.
Well, I think when you think of sports, you think like men. Like men do
male
better.
dominance.
Male dominance. And I think it's interesting because when you look at ultra marathon running,
It's more even.
yeah, it's
Depending on the length.
I think it's more
Even 100
yeah.
though. Like she
Because it's-
lost UTMB
yeah.
by like 2 hours.
She didn't lose. She just
She lost.
she didn't
lose. Well, lose. Well, define losing. She won
Yeah.
the. But all right, she won the overall in the Moab 240.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that in that sport, I think it's more mentally challenging than at least most of the sports I've seen. And not in the sense of like, because you know there is
just
definitely
time, dude.
yeah, there's definitely mental challenges in like when you're doing like pipes and stuff like that, and you're like, I'm about to hit this big jump, like I can't be scared. It's more of like I need to persevere through
It's
this.
suffering.
Yeah, it's suffering. You have to learn how to get into the pain cave.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Do you like suffering now?
I think I do. I think I love the. I don't know. Now, anytime I think about, like, I don't even know, just doing like very mediocre things in life, I'm like, I can do that. 'Cause I just ran 50 miles and like, it was pain. I mean, I guess that's a little bit to do with my confidence in myself, but I think through pushing myself to run 50 miles, I think I found like another part of like the confidence key.
So wait, back to the. We kind of got off track a little bit.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
So
Just a little bit.
32 and 10, and then 2 weeks later, well, you take 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And you run like
sucks.
a little bit.
It sucks.
It's
no.
called,
Well, we did back-to-back 10s. Or no, we
You
did 110.
You did.
Yeah,
I
you
never
did. You didn't. I did.
I
you didn't.
so I was working. I had work, so I didn't do the 32 with Juliet.
Yeah.
I did a little later, and then I ran the 32, and then I took a week and a half off, which was
Yeah.
the weirdest thing before doing the 50.
No, I know.
I was just like laying in bed all day, essentially, and like just doing nothing. Which is so it was funny. I don't know if I'll get into this now. Yeah, sure I will. Basically, I have a theory that ultras are the laziest sport because you train, yeah, but your training is you just have to run very slow. Like your heart rate never gets above like 2. Like it's out of there's L1 through L5,
Yeah.
and you should be at like L2, L3 maybe. Yeah. And so like your heart rate, even when we're doing the 50, you're just like chilling.
Yeah.
And you're like jogging a little bit, and then you go, and then you rest for like now we have a month off essentially, which is
No, we don't. I'm not taking a month.
I'm taking a month off.
I
I'm
know
not
you
running
are.
for a month. I'll surf and like walk around and hike and stuff, but I'm not running for a month because
Mm-hmm. I mean, it
I
says
made
after a
that
week you
mistake
can
the
do
first time.
20 minutes of running.
I know you can do.
I don't know. I can't not run. I think it's so much fun and I love running so much that I think about taking a month off and I think I will probably die.
So, you right? We'll talk about this more later, but you really should take more than a week off. Seriously.
Thank you, privileged white male, for telling me what
Whatever.
to do.
Anyway, week before. How'd you feel?
I felt good. Like there was never a
Was
point.
there ever any doubt? Was there ever any like up at night, like, oh my god.
No. I think that's crazy, but no.
I agree. I had no.
I know, because we weren't racing. We weren't racing against anyone. It was just us running there. We could decide our own course and decide where we wanted to go. But yeah, but we could go where we wanted to.
In Laguna.
For how we felt. You know what I mean? We were like, we don't really want to climb 1,000 feet of vert right now at mile 44, so let's run on the roads. You know, there was like no pressure there was no external pressure because it was just us doing it. So I didn't feel pressure doing it and getting a certain time because there wasn't anything I need to like qualify for, which I think is great. And one of the reasons why I liked running the 50 and having this be my first ultra. Like next, I definitely want to compete. Like I want to see, because I don't know, I feel like during the 50, I did push myself because I now got to see like I can run 50 miles. Like I can run 50 miles and I did it. But now how fast can I run 50 miles? And now can I run 100? I mean, I know I will run 100, but it's just like, can I do it in November or will it be next year? And then how fast can I run 100? Like, I don't, I mean, I'm trying to like keep it all power of now. Like think about the now, think about how you feel now.
Hard to, though.
But I'm like, 100. Like,
so
must.
You didn't feel a lot of pressure.
No.
Night before, how'd you sleep?
I slept, well, I mean, we slept for 4 hours. We ate Pizza Press, which is a great
We
pizza
slept
place.
for longer than 4 hours.
Or no, we slept 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then we woke up at like
3:30.
No, 4.
Okay, whatever.
We woke up at 4, and
In the morning.
4 in the morning. Got up. We were at my apartment and packed our packs with honey stingers, Cliff Bars, water, Gatorades. Packed my car up with a ginormous jug.
And that was like our aid station. was
Yeah,
the car.
and my car
Every,
was
like,
our aid
10
station.
miles.
Every like 10 or like every half marathon, we would stop there.
13. Which and we could have stopped more.
We could have, but I wouldn't have wanted to.
So during ultras, the average aid stations is every 6 to 8.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Killian, and I only need
Killian.
one Cliff Bar per 20 miles. But yeah, and then I made pancakes because I needed something to eat at like mile 20 or 30. It's good to eat something, and I made these vegan banana pancakes and put them in my bag, and we drove down to Laguna listening to Eruption.
Dude,
and
oh my god. So
it was so much fun.
It was 5:30 and we were driving to Laguna, and I have this playlist called Frankly Fuck Shit Up. And it's just like a heavy metal fucking gnarly playlist. And we listened to Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin and Eruption by Van Halen.
Yeah.
And it was like, just like in the car, just like, let's go.
It was so much fun because it felt like, I mean, one of the greatest things about being on a soccer team was the whole aspect of like getting ready for a game and getting pumped up for a game and having it be a big game, and there's a lot riding on this, like you gotta go. And we'd be in the locker room and we would like be screaming Mr. Brightside with all the lights turned off. I mean, that was like those are some of my favorite memories from high school, and it kind of felt like a little piece of that, just like getting ready for something big, like you're gonna do something great. And it was so much fun to like have that back. I felt like that was my favorite.
Glad I
part of it.
could provide that for you.
No, I provided it for myself.
Okay, well,
I'm
my
kidding.
playlist,
I'm
so you
kidding.
can fuck off. So then we started, and did it feel like a big deal starting, or was it like, oh, I guess we started?
Well, I already felt pain in my legs, like mile 0.1. I remember we started running in Laguna, and my calves were a little bit tight.
Right in the beginning?
Yeah, right in the beginning, and I was like, oh, fuck. Like,
Here we
I should have stretched.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, and my knee hurt a little bit, but at the same time,
Starting
I was like,
off?
Yeah, starting off.
Damn.
But I was like, you know what? It's just a day. It's just like 14 hours. I can get, like, I've spent 14
It's
hours.
like flying to Dubai.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Easy.
sitting on a flight, going home.
Except
like, it
you're
takes
running
the full
the
day.
whole time.
But except you're running, and there's a lot of things that happen during the run that sort of distract you. And, you know, I didn't, like, coming off the gate, physically I didn't feel the best, but mentally I felt incredible because I was like, I'm like, this
It's
is
game time, bitch.
yeah. I was like, this is gonna happen.
don't
Like,
play
I'm
games.
going to do
Strictly
this.
gang shit allowed
Strictly gang.
here. So then we did basically right in the beginning. We ran up like that hill, but it's a dirt version of the hill. It's like 1,000 feet of vert. And then
Top of the world
top
in
of the world.
Laguna.
And then 10 miles in, how do you feel?
I felt great.
There was a beautiful sunrise, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great sunrise, and I think all throughout that run there was no, I mean, for you and me both, there was never a point of like, okay, like, ouch, I'm hurting, I'm gonna give up right now. Like,
Who complained more?
neither of us complained. I think you were in a little bit more pain than I was.
Really?
Max, you were hobbling.
That's true. But I could also.
But I
just
was
be
also
more of a
limping,
bitch
so
than
it was
you.
okay. Well, no, I think we were just in different types of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mile 10,
No, we
you were
weren't.
fine.
We both had left knee pain.
Mile 10, you were fine. Mile 20.
Mile 20, I mean, where
When
were
did
we
things
mile
get
20?
interesting for you?
Well,
For me, it was. I know exactly when.
really, when?
I had the feeling that my knee was starting to get bad, and I was like, oh no.
I think mine was because my knee was hurting the whole time.
Yeah, that sucks.
That
But it was bad. But like, did it ever get to the point where you were like, holy fuck?
no, because I started thinking about like things that make me laugh and make me really happy, and then I started going insane.
Yeah, that. So it's funny. People who know me, which is probably most people that listen to this podcast. I'm a little bit of a. I'm very excited. I don't know how would you describe it. I'm a little
like a
crackhead.
Labrador.
There you go.
That's seeing
Golden
a person.
retriever.
Yeah, like a golden retriever.
So I'm all psyched up all the time. And so we get to mile, for me, it
30.
was we crossed the street to the right side, and there was all these like paramedics at the bottom of this hill. There was like something going on. You probably don't even remember that. Yeah, you don't. That's so funny.
Oh, yes, I do. Oh my God, yeah, I do.
And so
That was mile like what, 20-ish?
yeah,
Yeah, mile 20.
20.
No. That was like
23.
mile, because that was after our first stop.
that was mile 23, around there. I know.
Okay.
I know what it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Because then we took a right up onto the thing, and then we went by all the families like on that trail, and then you get up to the road.
Yeah. And then
And then the road, we went back to the soccer field,
Mm-hmm.
and then remember we were like, oh, we need to hit a marathon.
Yeah.
So it was like mile 20, and I just like started taking a couple steps, and then my left knee just started going bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had issues before, and I didn't think I'd like torn anything because it wasn't like an abrupt oh god. It was like a slow over like probably 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was like, oh cool, this hurts.
Yeah.
And then it just started. It was funny. So by marathon, I was basically limping. Like
Yeah, because we
hobbling.
were going down the right side.
Not before then. Like right when we were turning around, there was like this circle, but next to the radio towers.
Oh yeah.
And right
in
then,
Laguna.
you were ahead of me. I put a Snapchat video, and you're ahead of me, and I was just like, we have to double this.
Yeah.
Almost double it. And so then I was like, yeah, that's good. And then I don't know. It's weird to think because when you already feel shitty halfway through, we were halfway through. It's just weird because you're like, okay, well, I have to double this now.
Yeah, I have to go for it
But
again.
that doesn't mean that you're gonna like quit.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, all right, fuck it, sure.
Yeah.
And then I was in severe pain though, literally the rest of the time. Like I was like on a 1 to 10 pain scale, it was probably a solid like 5 or 6 just consistently.
Consistent, yeah.
And
But
then,
then you
like-
get into the lull of the pain. You know what I mean?
I didn't get
did
to
you
the
not
lull. I didn't get to the lull until we were back on the other side.
Oh, at like mile 30-ish?
When I was staring at your hat. No, like 38.
38.
Like right when on the flat. Then I was like, fuck it, it's game
Yeah.
time, bitch, and like
Yeah.
didn't care. And it never went away. It was just like, oh well, I can't do anything, so
Yeah.
we're gonna give her. But it's funny because in the beginning of the race, you're like, oh, I want the downhills because the downhills I don't need to run.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where you're like, oh, I want the uphills, like, or oh, I want the flats.
Then you're like, I don't want any of it.
And then yeah, it just all starts hurting. So yeah, for me that was when it started. How about you?
Well, I think because it started hurting during mile 1. I mean,
But when did it ever?
it
pick
really
up?
it really started hurting The second loop on the left side of Top of the World.
What mile?
Probably like 30. Yeah, 30.
Okay.
Mile 30 was when it started to, I remember.
Because we went up Park Ave.
Yeah, well, no.
We walked up Park
Yeah,
Ave.
we walked up Park Ave and then went back on what trail is that in Laguna? It starts with an L. Lynx.
Yeah.
When we started going down Lynx, my knee was fricked up.
It was fucked up, dude.
It was really fucked up. I couldn't straighten my leg. Otherwise, it hurt like shit.
But the cool thing is that you don't have to.
Yeah. Well,
You
and
shouldn't
that's
be
no,
straightening your leg.
because I think that another thing too is like you have to think quickly. Like, okay, strategy. Like, this is gonna hurt. Of course, you know it's gonna hurt. So you're just like, all right, I need to figure out ways into being like, okay, how do I minimize the pain mentally so I can get over the physical pain? Because when you keep telling yourself, ow, this hurts, ow, this hurts, ow, this hurts, then you're going to mentally start to break down and be like, I am hurt. So for me, I kind of started, when my knee started hurting, I was like, okay, I can't keep my leg straight, so I'll just bend it. So then I started limping. But it worked.
Did it hurt when it was bent?
No, it didn't hurt when I couldn't feel it at all when it was bent. But when I straightened it, I could feel like every muscle just going they were angry at me.
Yeah.
And then I think too, oh my God, this is so funny. I think too, another mental thing was like, because your knee was hurting so bad, I was like, okay, Max is hurting. Let me focus on Max's pain. And then it'll distract from my pain. And we were going down Lynx and we were running down that trail.
The flat one? The road?
Yeah, the flat one. And I remember my leg hurt pretty bad. And so then I started thinking of like, all right, well, I need to think about other things. And I called my mom, and my mom, dad, and all my grandparents were in the car like, yeah, you guys got this. And that was a big booster. But then when we started going up into the neighborhood, I forget what hill that is. That's when I started going insane. Because it got to a point
Which
where...
was at mile 40.
Yeah. It got to the point where... I didn't want to vocalize it because I didn't want to manifest the pain in my leg. Like, every time Max would ask me, how's your knee? And I was like, ask me after the race. Because I was like, I don't want to say that it hurt, but it hurt bad.
Yeah.
Especially at mile, like, 30. Like, going up that thing, that's when it started hurting. And I remember you called your mom, and my knee was just fucking dead. And so then I started thinking about, like, okay... I started thinking it's gonna get to a point where the pain is numb and it's constant and I can just kind of lull it out. But right now it hurts bad. What can I think about? And I started thinking about things that make me laugh. And I'm a nanny for a 5 and a 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old I nanny for, Eliana, she does this thing where I'll like make her food and I'll be like, hey, Eliana, guess what? And she's like, what? And I'm like, I made you food. And she'll go like, duh! Like, do the craziest thing. And it's been ever since I've nannied for her. And she does it every single time. And she'll do it like when I bring her Play-Doh. She'll be like, duh! Do these crazy, like, she'll open her big brown eyes and she'll put her hands up and go insane. And it makes me laugh every
really
single
cute. time.
She's so cute. Oh my God. She poops in her pants every time, but my God, when she's like, I love you, Juliet, I'm like, oh. But yeah, so I started thinking about that. And then when it got to the point where it was like, my knee hurts really bad, I couldn't start thinking about it. I had to start doing it. So I started doing it and I went insane.
So then it got to the point we were in this neighborhood at the top of this hill and you like walk through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Juliet just started like laughing hysterically.
I would like laugh.
Just like laughing at
Going
herself.
insane.
And I at that point, normally, like I said, I'm the one with the crackhead energy. And I had not a lot of crackhead energy.
No,
I
and
was
I
tired.
felt bad too.
I was in pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It wasn't even that I wanted to be done. I was just like, this is like, because it's funny, you hear through people do ultras and they'll be like, you go through highs and lows and it'll get better. I'm like, it hasn't gotten better since mile 30.
Well, and I felt bad because I was like, you're usually the one that brings up a lot of the energy, and I feel like we both have a lot of energy too. And then when I felt like you were flatlining, I was like, how do I like bring up his energy? And I think, like, did it help that I was going insane? Did it make you laugh or
partly
no?
annoyed.
Were you annoyed?
Yeah, definitely partly, for sure.
Why?
Because I was jealous.
Oh, yeah.
I was annoyed because I was jealous that I didn't have that, and I was like, come on, bro, like, you need to, like, get your shit together. Like, what's wrong with you? Because I wanted to feel that way, but I
Yeah.
didn't, which is fine. I was like, dude, whatever. And that was the start of the ego thing. So my we'll talk about takeaways, but my biggest takeaway was like, I need to watch my ego. And that came in this next bit. So we went down the hill, and we went down the concrete hill, and it was starting to get dark, and we were walking down it, and it gets to a point where like you have to walk downhill because your knees are just jacked up.
Yeah.
And so we were walking down this hill, and then it was so weird. I walked by this sign, and I tried to touch it, and I missed it. And then I literally walked probably another like 50 yards down the hill, and I'm just weird ODD. I'm like, I need to touch the sign. And then I like ran back up the hill to touch the sign. And that was like the start of my mental just like going downhill.
Yeah, because I remember I was like, is he going to get trashed? And then you touch the sign, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. So that was like the start of like the mental, not trippy, but you just kind of like get weird. Things get weird.
Things do get
We get to the bottom. We take a break. And then we're like, fuck it, we got to give her. And we had 6 more miles, which is like, it doesn't sound like a lot at that point, but it took another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And we were like, basically you have to run up 1,000 feet of vert to get to the flats where you would like want to be at. And we did not want to do that. And so we're like, we're just going to run on the roads. And so then we were like running on the back roads. Like basically there's the main road in Laguna, and then we ran on the side of like the road, the next street up. And, Juliet at this point she had more energy, and she seemed like she wasn't hurting as bad.
Yeah.
And I was hurting a lot, and I had less energy. You can take it away if you want.
Well, I just remember, like, we got back to my car at mile 44, and we were like, 6 miles left. All right, we're not going to climb 1,000 feet of vert. Let's just do this on the roads. And I knew how bad your knees were hurting, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to really hurt them. But I was like, this is probably going to be for the best. And that was the longest 6 miles, I think. Those last 2 miles were the longest 2 miles I think I've ever done in my entire life. Like, I swear to God, it felt like I was in some sort of time loop where I was like, what mile are we at? What mile are we at? Like, it made no sense that we hadn't gone.
And people kept asking us,
Yeah.
me. They're like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And this guy,
Random people in the street. Yeah.
restaurant guy was like, do you need some ice? And
Ice?
I'm like, I wish.
Yeah, but I think, like, at that point, I had sort of lulled out the pain, and I'd come out the other side and been like, you know, my knee's gonna hurt, so be it. Like, I just need to, like, keep pumping my arms, keep thinking about something else. And I started running ahead of Max. And when I was ahead of Max, there was one point, I can't remember what mile it was at, but there was a point where I heard you almost trip.
I tripped.
You tripped, but you
Yeah.
didn't fall flat on your face. You just tripped.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking to myself, like, oh my God, if he like trips and if he falls and his face is bloody and his knee is bloody and like, you know, he's not going to be able to finish this running, like that's going to, you know.
That would crush
Yeah,
me.
that would suck. And so then I started running ahead of Max, and I would like every single time.
At this point, wait, let's clarify.
Yeah.
Julia you could have been done by that point. How dead ass, if we were racing, how ahead of me you think you could have finished?
Well, I think that's all relative. Like if you didn't have any knee pain or anything. But in that moment,
No, I'm saying in our circumstances.
in our circumstances,
Like if I didn't have knee pain, I would have been way better off, but I had knee pain.
I think I could have, but I wouldn't have wanted to.
I know, but if you could have.
If I could have,
Probably an hour and a half.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Because you were like you were hobbling, but you were definitely running still.
Yeah.
Where I was just like straight up hobbling.
No, I would look back
at a
and I was
fast
like,
pace.
you look like crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. But so then yeah, we got to a point where she was ahead of me, and
Not by that much.
not by that much, but
I think more so
tripped.
I think more so I was ahead of you because I was like, I mean, first off, we were on the sidewalk, so there was no way we could be like right next to each other. But then also after you like tripped, I was like, I need to be ahead of him because I have to tell him like where the bumps are in the road, if there are cracks, if there are curbs. So I would be in front of you and I would be like, Max, there's a crack right here. Max, there's a
Like
curb
a
right
tiny
there.
crack.
Yeah, but I was so afraid. I was like, oh my God, he's hurting so bad. He's probably focusing on how much he's hurting and he isn't focusing on like the road or the sidewalk, nothing like that.
And the funny part was that all I was focusing was on how much I not hated, but
How much you hated.
how much I hated. Well, not hated. It's not hated.
It annoyed you.
I was embarrassed because, all right, I grew up where, I guess I was like, as a man, whatever, my male ego was like, I want you to be not as strong as me, and I want to be helping you out towards the finish and be there for you.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite. And so I was to the point where I felt babied, and I was like, this motherfucker, like you.
But then you admitted that it helped.
Yeah, it helped. But I was just like embarrassed. I'm like, wow, like this chick is just like, oh, watch out for the curve. And it's not even dark. Like I could see. I'm like, and
It was dark at some point.
okay, yeah, but
We weren't on
not
the
dark
street,
enough
but
to the
yeah.
point where I'm like, I'm not blind. I can see. I'm just hobbling.
Right.
And so, and my energy was like low. I was tired, but it was more my body rather than my mind. And so I'm just thinking, I'm like, don't say shit. Don't say shit. Just accept it. Like, it's fine. She's just being nice. She's doing a nice thing. Sure, she's like underestimating you, or like, that's what it felt like at the time. But I was like, don't say anything. And then she kept doing it, and then I just like flipped. I was like, hey, I'm okay. Like, you don't need to tell me, in like a nice way.
No, you did say it in a very nice way, but I knew that it was coming from your fragile male ego.
And then I
felt bad because
that was at like 40,
because I wanted you. I mean, like
48.
This was like a 50-mile run that you asked me if I wanted to do, and I didn't want to bring down your confidence level in yourself by saying like, watch out for the curb. It was genuinely coming from a place of like, I know how hard you worked at this, and if you fell on your face right now and finished like walking this, I feel like you wouldn't have felt as accomplished.
And I appreciate it.
But I do understand how much
Now I just want to race you and beat you, and so
Okay.
like prove you wrong.
Well, see, the thing is,
And
like,
look. The one thing I will say is I think you are now too predisposed in thinking that you can beat me.
no, I don't.
Yes, you are.
I think that, well, okay, I think that this
Bring it
is
on.
what it is. I think that this is what
We
it
ran
is.
the first one together. Now we're competitors.
Well,
All right, I've been gesturing to Juliet this whole time to talk closer into the
Sorry.
microphone.
you're talking so far away.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm right here, bro.
You're
Continue.
not. I'm literally like kissing the microphone.
Okay.
See, I don't think.
I wasn't competitive, but now I am. Because that made me feel like, and this is part of me checking my ego, but
You
that's
need to
just
check your
I
ego.
need to check my ego. And that's what all right,
I
that
think
was
we're
the
both
takeaway.
okay. You want to race in skiing? You're gonna fucking win, like 100%. It takes me
But
30
when I
minutes
realized,
to get down
okay,
a blue.
all right, ego.
Yeah.
What I realized in that moment was, look, Max, you can't be good at everything, and just because your girlfriend is better than you at this,
Girlfriend.
whatever. For now, fucking hell. I'm just kidding. Just because she's better than you at this doesn't make you any less thing, or like any less capable, or you shouldn't be any less proud of what you're doing and like what we're doing and whatnot. And then I had to like be okay with that, and I was, and I came to that conclusion, and I apologized. I'm sorry if I like sounded ungrateful or something like that, because like I said, I realized I can't be the best at everything. Not that I have ever been good at anything. But this was like the one thing that I was like, maybe I'll be better.
Do you think it was because I'm a woman?
Partly, for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
Yeah. Not just
I think
because you're a
part
woman.
of the reason why I enjoyed the last bit of our run is because you were a man, and I was like, yeah, I'm beating you. but no, because I think it was great to be able to run with you, because I didn't look at it as like I'm competing against like a guy.
was just about
It was
finishing.
just about finishing, and it was doing it with you, and we like finished the race like hand in hand. It was so nice, and it was great. And I think you look at it as like, yeah, sure, there were parts when I was not ahead of you, I was in front of you.
You would have been ahead of me.
I would have been, but that wasn't what the race stood for. That wasn't what the 50 miles stood for. It was something like I don't know, at least for me, I think one of the reasons why I could have done better than you was because it was the first time I'd ever really pushed myself. And you've been pushing yourself your whole life. Like, for me personally, seeing you ski down big mountains, I'm like, oh my God, that's pushing himself. Like, skiing is not my forte. But, I mean, running is something that I'm really good at and something that, you know, I found like a really big pleasure in seeing how much pain I could put myself in.
But I loved the ultimate conclusion that we've come to, which I don't know if is 100% true, but you love running. Mm-hmm. I love running, but I don't love running. I love challenges and accomplishing things, but you love running for running. Yeah. And I love ultras. I don't love running. Like, I wouldn't go run a marathon anymore unless I was like with my daughter when I'm 50. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
you think your knees will stay good
until
right, 50?
But no, like there's no point, like, and that's why it's always been longer. Whereas like you're like, oh, I'm gonna be running forever and like doing all this. 100%. Like, I'm not gonna be running.
I want to be. There's this place in Virginia Beach. It's called Fleet Feet. There's a lot of Fleet Feets around the world, but or not around the world, in the U.S. And they're like a running store you can go to and buy stuff from. But there's this woman that works at the Fleet Feet in Virginia Beach, and she's like 80 years old, and she's like, yeah, I ran 20 miles this morning. And I'm like, that's sick. That's what I want to be. Like, I want to be like 50, 60 years old being like, phew, that 50 that I ran today was just crazy. Anyways, you know.
So maybe, well, our conclusion was that, well, I learned that I need to check my ego and not always assume that I am the man, you're the woman, and I will be better and faster, equal. And we are equal. Mm-hmm. If not, you're better
Except
than me.
At skiing. I think that I'm never going to get as good at skiing as you, because it genuinely terrifies me.
Fair enough.
To ski.
Clearly. But, so I need to check my ego. I think the thing that anyone will take away from an ultra is that, like, you're way capable. You're more capable of things than you think you can. Yeah. And I've never been to that point where, so for example, I ran my first marathon and I felt the pain I was feeling at the end of my marathon the first time for the second marathon that I ran. And at the end of my first marathon, I was like, oh my God, I'm like hurting so much and it hurts. And I'm like, oh, I did it. It's over. And then I felt the same pain and I was like, oh, time to double this.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, I think it's kind of cliche to be like, oh, you're more capable and like you can handle more pain than you think you can. But it's true. So those are my takeaways. Yeah. What are yours? What were yours?
I think my takeaways are that it was just a very interesting process of spending 4 months of training, and every single week you're like pushing yourself a little bit more and pushing yourself a little bit more. And at the end of the training, ultimately, there's this thing that you do. You run 50 miles. But, you know, I remember when I was doing sprints in like the Angels parking lot, like I was never thinking about 50 miles. I was thinking about the sprints. And I was thinking about, okay, well, you know, you just got to take it like one day at a time and ultimately you'll do it. And like, you can push yourself harder than you think you can. Because, I mean, I always knew I was going to do marathons, but I always thought I was going to do it later in life. And I never thought that, like, I never even knew ultra marathon running was like a thing until you brought it up. And like, there's this whole world of people that, like Courtney Dauwalter, killing the game. And I think it's crazy that, you know, there's so many people out there that are like pushing themselves doing these ultra marathon runs. And I think about like me running 5 miles like a couple of months ago and being like, wow, that was such a good workout. And now it takes 10 miles for me to like feel something. It's kind of crazy, like how hard you can push yourself in such a short amount of time, but do it effectively. And, you know, when I bring this up to people and they're like, how did you run 50 miles? And I'm like, it's just like anything else. You like train for it and you do it. And most importantly, like you have to believe in yourself. I mean, I think now it's really exciting because I've seen like, okay, I can do 50 miles. Now I think I'm capable of doing 100. And even if I don't finish the 100, I'm like, well, okay, there's always the next 100 that I'll do. But I think it was just really interesting to see what it was like to run and push myself running, because I'd never really done that before.
So the last mile, what did that feel like?
It felt so long.
Long? And
It
then
felt
the last
long,
100
but-
feet.
But it was like a very... I did kind of get emotional. There was never a point where I cried, but I was like, I could kind of cry right now because it was 4 months of like training and doing it, and we
felt
did
like
it
I
together.
wanted to be emotional,
I
but
wanted
then
to be
I
emotional.
wasn't.
Well, and then when we finished, I was like, so when's the 100 gonna happen? Because I started thinking
Well,
to
that's what I was
myself
gonna
like,
ask. So
yeah.
wait, real quick. So last 100 feet, what happened with us?
we ran hand in hand.
Well, yeah, but we were gonna. So basically, we were right before 14 hours,
Oh yeah.
and we were running like
Yeah.
right. There was right there, and we finished our official for 50 miles. We ended up walking another, so it was 51 total. But
Yeah.
50 miles was 14 hours and 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
And then we finished, and then walked up back to the car. And were you overwhelmed? Were you excited? Were you happy? And no, well, these questions I think will be interesting, which is, did you feel challenged by the 50, and were you satisfied?
I don't think challenged is the right word. I think it was eye-opening. It opened me up to a whole new realm of possibilities of like, I can definitely do things that I set my mind to with a lot of work and a lot of patience, because it does take patience to be able to run 50. You should never just be like, oh, I'm going to walk outside my door and run 50 miles. Like, you need to take the right precautions to make sure that you're capable
Or you will
of
get
doing
hurt.
it.
Trust
Or you
me.
will get
I
hurt,
know,
trust
I know
me.
from experience.
Yeah. So
Not 50, but
I think that it was just eye-opening to be able to see that the time and the effort, it all worked. I did feel challenged in some certain parts of it, but I think overall I love running so much that it wasn't like a difficulty for me to like get over the pain, because I was like, well, I'm running. Like I've been doing this since I was like a kid, so it's just like a passion of mine that I love to do. I think it was definitely encouraging, because to be able to see how I did mentally during this, I think will translate into other ultras that I do. To be able to say like, okay, when I'm in like these very low places where it's not just hurting physically, but it's hurting mentally, and I'm not pushing myself into like a torn ACL or a broken leg, but it's just like, this is long, this is hard. I know the place that I can go to and be like, no, I love running, so I just got to get through this. It's like a couple miles.
just a couple.
Just a couple.
So you finished, and then we drove home. I was fucking destroyed.
Yeah, I drove home.
You drove home. I was fucking destroyed. And another ego check there. I was like, oh, I want to drive home, and like, how you'll just be in this passenger seat, like sleeping. And I'm like, yeah.
The man, like, there, little one.
But so we already talked about takeaways, I guess. But what's next for you? And what are your tips to people who are maybe interested in running ultras?
I say do it. I think everyone should, well, okay.
That's a good life goal.
The hard thing is like,
Ultras take time.
well,
like
no.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
No. Well, no, you aren't interrupting me, but this is just a point I would like to make to people. Some people literally physically can't run because it really messes up your knees. Like, it's not, like, in some cases, it's really not good for people to run. So I say for those people, just find, like, something else physical that you can do that, like, really pushes yourself. Because
You
I
can
think,
bike,
yeah, I think,
and it's way less.
I think it's really interesting to physically push yourself, because it also does push yourself mentally and show what you are capable of. And I think that, you know, I did have a lot of confidence before this, but now I have so much more confidence after this. It's not cockiness, it's more confidence and being like, I just ran 50 miles. I think I could do a lot more than I I think I can. Especially if I, I'm a very big picture thinker where I'm like, I'm going to do this. And like, I have the massive picture of it, but I don't think of the little pixels that go into the picture. And so I think through this process, I've been able to see like I need to be focusing on the pixels, because then that picture is going to be so much stronger the more pixels that are put into it. I think that, tips, I feel like I can't say it until I run 100. I feel like,
Why do you feel the need to run 100?
because I think that it's going to push me really, really hard. I think at the end of the 50 miles, by mile like 43 or 44, I started to like feel mentally
Pushed.
I agree. And like I
But
felt,
it took that much.
but it took that much, and I felt like at mile 60 I would have been like crying on my knees being like, please let this end, and I want that so bad.
Not 60. 10 miles after, you would have been fine. It would have been 85.
Yeah, no, because then I would have seen it as like
60?
just 15 more. I think by miles
70.
I think 70 maybe, where I'm like
70.
30 more
That's a
miles,
lot.
really.
Yeah, I think 70 seems like the...
But I mean, honestly, I think that everyone,
Find a way to push yourself.
just find,
And you will learn. Like, I learned
you learn
shit.
a lot.
Dude, I learned some stuff. Mm-hmm. Check your ego.
check
my
your ego.
ego.
And you learn that you can do so much more than you're capable of, but you have to think of,
And pain is temporary. Like,
is
it's 4 days later, and I feel... The funny thing is, I'm not sore really, but I am just tired. I'm
so
tired.
lethargic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the recovery is like a month. So, I'm going to take this week off, and then probably do like a little bit of exercising. But, yeah.
I think I've also learned too that I love the whole, I think not that it gets a negative rap, but it gets a different rap than what it means, of the whole action sports world of like, these people are crazy, they're insane, why are they doing that? But it's like, it's kind of a goal that you set. Like, I mean, being from Virginia Beach,
It's
and
cool.
yeah, it's
That you
so
come,
cool.
Like, not a lot of people come from the world you did of non-auction sports. Like, I come from that, and so it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But you had to completely change your mindset,
Yeah.
which is freaking cool. So
Which I think may have been easier for me because I'm a fairly confident person as is.
Damn right.
But I think it's still hard, and you still have to, every single day be like, when you wake up and you see that training day, you have to run 20 miles. You have to be like, just take it a mile at a time. Like, you can do this. It's okay. It's just you running out there, or it was just me running with you. I felt no pressure whatsoever. I think too, it helped that like I had someone else to run with.
Agreed.
And someone that was like, I had to not check in with, but I would send you my mile times, and then you would send me your mile times, and we would check each other's splits and see where we were running. I don't know. I thought like it was a great process that I'm excited to see how much more I can push myself.
What's the longest you want to go?
I think I don't want to say Moab 240 because that's fucked. Like, that's crazy. But, people think 50 is crazy. So I'm like, well,
You thought 50 was crazy.
I never thought 50 was crazy. I was just like, that's a long time to be running. I think 100s I'll probably do just a couple. Kidding. But I think ultimately, I don't know.
Not kidding.
And I don't know, and that's the exciting part. Because who knows? Like, I could...
Do 100 and your body's broken forever.
Yeah, exactly. But then I find a new way how to incorporate running into my life, whether it's like volunteering at the ultra races or something. Or I become Courtney Dauwalter and I just kill it. I don't know. And I'm just excited to train for the 100. And I think this time I sort of know how much harder I can push myself, because during the training I did push myself, but not as hard as I think I can. And I want to bonk.
Be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. Do you have any
Thank
last words,
you.
Juliet Benedito?
Yeah. Duh. That's my last word.
All right. Thank you all for listening. You're the shit.
It was a pleasure coming on.
Thank you for
I
coming
can't
on, Juliet.
believe I was honored enough to be on this.
Finally got you on because you demanded it.
I know. I was really like, why am I not on this podcast?
All right. Peace out, yo. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Yo, yo, yo. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast with J-Dog. She's amazing. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our stories about the 50. I'm going to have her back on when we do 100. It's not an if, dude. I'm finishing that shit. And she definitely will. That's for damn sure. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Peace out. Love you all. Thank you all for listening.